We're going to end this lesson with a couple application problems, and these are going to be similar to the homework questions you see in my math lab. So example 6 says to earn an A in a course, a student must get an average score of at least 90 on 4 tests. If her first 3 test scores are 92, 86, and 85, what score does she need on the last test to obtain a 90%? So let's just kind of go over averages really quickly. To find the average of something, you add up all those numbers and divide by the amount that you're adding up. So for example, if let's say you have 4 tests and your grade is solely based on tests, homework doesn't matter, participation doesn't matter, attendance doesn't matter, it is just these 4 tests. Let's say you do okay on the first test, you make a 78. Second test, completely bomb, and you make a 45. Then you really pick it up the second half of the course and you make a 92, and then you do even better and you make a 94. Okay, we would add up all 4 of those scores and then divide it by 4, and you would average a 78 essentially in the class. So adding them all up and then dividing by that number. So if this student has her first 3 tests are at 96, 92 and 86 and 95, we'll add up those scores. We're figuring out what does she need on the last test. So I don't know that one. So we're going to represent it by some variable. X is great. We would divide this then by 4. And if she wants to make an A, then this will equal a 90. I'm going to do 2 things all at once on this step here. First, I'm going to combine my like terms in this top one. So 92 plus 86 plus 95 is going to give me 273. So I've got 273 plus X. I also want to get rid of this 4 in this step as well. So if everything is getting divided by 4, the opposite of division is multiplication. So we will multiply both sides by 4. These 4 cancels because 4 divided by 4 is 1. And then on this side here, we're going to get 360. So then lastly, I'm going to squeeze this in here. We're going to subtract our 273 over. And we get X equals 87. So what score does she need on the last test to obtain that 90% average? And she needs at least an 87%. Example 7, as part of the largest to date damage award in a jury trial in history, the penalty handed down to the tobacco industry included a $74 billion judgment against Philip Morris. If this amount was 94% of the company's 1999 revenue, how much was Philip Morris's 1999 revenue? So if I'm wanting to know how much his revenue is, I'm going to let that equal X. So X is going to equal the 1999 revenue. Okay. So if it was 94% of the company's 1999 revenue of is a key word there to multiply. 94% of the decimal is 0.94 of means times, and of the 1999 revenue, we're letting that represent by X. So this is 0.94 X equals, and what was the total amount that they had to pay was at 74 billion. Now, instead of putting all those zeros, I'm just going to let that equal 74. Now, this is just division. Divide both sides by 0.94. And x equals what? So 74 divided by 0.94 gives me about 78. We'll just call it 0.7. And this is in billions. So find out how much they made in their revenue here. If x equals my revenue and I just found x, that is my answer. Okay, let's try one that's a little bit more complicated. And number 8 says the total cost of a used slot machine is $29,998, including sales tax. If the sales tax is 6%, how much of the total cost is sales tax? Okay, in this one, we're going to let x equal the price before tax. So let's kind of talk about when you go to a store, right? When you go to a store, let's just keep it really simple. You go to the grocery store, and before tax, it comes out to $100 total. They take this number here and they multiply it by a percentage, and then they add that tax to your total. And so now you're not just paying that 100, you're paying 100 times whatever that tax is, right? Or adding whatever that tax is here to then get the total. So if the total cost is my slot machine is this, that's what this is going to equal. We have a 6% tax rate here. So that's going to go in here, but remember, this isn't just whatever that tax rate is, it's this percentage times that tax rate. So we have whatever that price is before my tax, plus, this is a decimal, move your decimal twice, is 0.06 times whatever this original amount was. And that's going to equal this 29,998. Okay. So we have two x's here, whatever the original amount was, plus 6% of the original amount should equal the total. So add this together. This is the same as a 1x. So 1 plus 0.06 is 1.06x. And divide by 1.06. We get x equals, because we're talking about money, we'll go to 2 decimal places. And I get 28,000. Oops, wait. I added an extra 9 there. There we go. 28,300. This actually comes out evenly. That's nice. Okay. Now make sure you read the question and answer what it is asking. It doesn't want to know what the price was of the slot machine. It says, if the sales tax is 6%, how much of the total cost is sales? So I have found out what my price was before tax. I know what I have paid after tax. So how much was tax? Subtract the 2. So what is 29,998 minus 28,300? And that is 1,698. So that is how much tax I'm having to pay. Last example here. After Professor Lusher lost 20% of her investment, she had $14,000. How much was her original investment? So this is very similar to this right here. We are going to let X equal the original investment So my original investment, because I have lost, I'm going to subtract 20%. I need 20% of this number here, whatever that number may be. So 20% is 0.2 times that original amount. And now I am left with this 1,400. Or sorry, 14,000. So again, combine. If this is 1x, 1 minus 0.2 is going to give me 0.8x. Which that should make sense. If I'm losing it, now I have 80% of whatever I invested. Divide by 0.8. And my original amount was 17,500. So, talking about money, I'm just going to add that dollar sign here. So, started with an investment of 17,500, lost 20% of it, and now I have that 14,000. It looks like we forgot to put up here that this X right here was representing our last test grade. You want to add that in there. Use these as an example of how to set up your equation. The setup is kind of the hard part. Once you set it up, you should be very easy to solve. And then also, when you get to a problem like example 8, and it might be this problem, might not, I don't really remember, but just make sure you're actually reading the question and giving the answer. I didn't want to know what the price was of the slot machine at the before tax. I wanted to know how much of it was tax. So just make sure you're reading the question and answering the question it's asking.